Hello everyone, today on Scottish Memories I am chatting to Edinburgh MP Deirdre Brock. Hello everyone, how are you all? Hope you are all happy and healthy and safe out there wherever you are. Just before we get started, if you haven't already, please remember to hit that subscribe button either on podcast or on YouTube. It would genuinely mean the world. You come and join Clan Brownford, but today this is really exciting. I am interviewing Member of Parliament for Edinburgh North and Leith, Deirdre Brock. Ms. Brock, hello, how are you?
Hello, nice to see you. Nice to see you, Tony.
So kind of you to share your time and I know you can only be incredibly busy right now, so thank you for taking the time to come on and chat.
No, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Anything that helps promote Scotland around the world, particularly in these times when, it's not possible for people to get over here and visit as they could have in the past. I'm really happy to help.
It's so kind of you. And I think probably the first thing to spot out is it's not quite a natural Edinburgh accent.
No, it's not. I came over at the end of 95 and a friend of my sister's persuaded me to go up to the Highlands in his mad little car. And when I was up there, we were up experiencing a proper Highland hogmanay, which was quite something. I met my partner, and so that was me. I decided to move here a few months after that. And I've been here ever since. I've got 2 children, and yeah.
That's lovely, though. There's just something about that Scottish brogue. It just brings people in, doesn't it?
Oh, I know. And, as I've said before, and I've stated publicly, the kilt has a certain great appeal for many of us coming through from places like Australia. And it's a pleasure to live in a country where men wear the kilt a lot. They look so great in it. I love the way men
I love
kilts.
wearing my kilt. I was given a kilt by my parents on my 21st birthday. I've still got it. I still wear it. I've had to have a little extension on it now. It doesn't quite fit the same anymore.
Happens
but
to us all.
I love wearing it. I love wearing it. I told you before, just before we got started, I lived in London for a short period, and whenever I could, any opportunity, I would wear it down there at the drop of a hat.
Yep. I mean, some people say you have to be a certain shape. I disagree. I think any man looks brilliant in a kilt, no matter where they're from. But, I mean, leaving that to one side, obviously, just living in Scotland is a dream, really. I just love being here. It's such a beautiful, beautiful country. It's got the most amazing history. And the people are extraordinary. And if any of your viewers are familiar with the term crack, as in, they're good crack. Yeah. That is something that you will find right across Scotland. You will get great crack. You'll have great stories. You'll have people with a brilliant sense of humour. I mean, it's the people really that I suppose mainly sort of decided me to stay here. I love being here.
You're not the first person to mention that. The last few interviews, I was chatting to Fred Macaulay a couple of weeks ago and things like that. And each part of Scotland, each area has got its own unique sense of humour, and each one is just as funny as the other. And obviously, one of the areas that you sort of represent, Leith, I think Edinburgh-wise has probably got one of the strongest Edinburgh personalities. People in Leith are brilliant.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a really strong sense of community here. I think a lot of people find it really attractive. The First Minister came to visit a few months ago and paid us what I know she feels is a very great compliment, and described it as the Glasgow of the East. So
that's I agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, the sense of humour, the motto of Leith is persevere. And that is what people have done here for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's been such an important, it's been so important historically as the sort of main port for Scotland. And, it's a really multicultural area as well in Leith. Now that's probably, given its background, something that it's been the case for hundreds of years. And I think there's a, really positive feel around that multiculturalism that I really like about Leith as well. So, Leith is where I first settled when I came here as an Australian. People sometimes ask you if you receive any negativity because you're from somewhere else, and I can say, hand on my heart, I never have. The only thing anyone ever says to me is, goodness me, why have you left the blue skies of Australia for the grey skies of Scotland? And you know what, Edinburgh has some good weather. We have some beautiful blue skies, so I'm not taking that.
We do have some lovely blue skies. It
Yes.
might be cold. It might be cold at the same time, but we do have some lovely blue skies.
But
However,
if you are dressed appropriately, that's not going to make any difference, and that's a lot of folks say that. I think that's Billy Connolly as well. Basically, if you're ready for it with a warm jumper and a coat, you'll be fine.
yeah, I always like to quote Billy Connolly saying, "If you don't like the weather in Scotland, hang on for 20 minutes. It'll be different."
No, that's true.
I mean,
Yep.
last night, I'm sure you heard it as well as me. We had that massive thunder snow. Sorry, yeah.
Everyone in my family woke up, not me. It's been quite a busy week, and I think, even though I'm a light sleeper, I think I just slept right through it, and I'm very disappointed because it sounded like it was quite an event.
Oh, it was huge. I've got 2 dogs and a 9-week-old baby.
Oh.
So, and funnily enough, the 2 dogs, obviously, they were up. I was up. My wife was up. Lily and her baby,
Conked out.
Not a thing. Completely conked out. She didn't care.
It's a hard life being a baby, I understand.
It's difficult. So obviously, coming here and settling here and deciding to make the decision to represent, that your adopted home, that really shows a proper love of the area and the place. You must have really found that you've just went, yeah, this really feels like a second home.
This is my home now. It's funny, when I go back to Australia, and I don't get back as often as I'd like. My parents and my sisters live over there, but when I go back now, my father sort of laughs at me because I flake out on the couch because it's so hot. He was, you've grown soft living in Scotland. But
No one's ever said that about someone living in Scotland before.
No. Although someone did say to me, my friend came to visit me years and years ago, and I was wearing just a waterproof and maybe a thin jumper, and she had 3 jumpers on and a big thick coat. And she said, "Deidre, you're so rugged." Really? No one's ever described me as that before. But you get acclimatized, don't you? You get used to the colder weather, and it doesn't bother you. But then I go back to Australia in the heat of, a 38, 40 degree heat. I really feel it now. I never used to bother me, but no, this is my home. I love it. My partner's Scottish, of course. He's from here. He was born in Edinburgh and then grew up in the Highlands. I can't imagine living anywhere else now. Beautiful.
I love that. I think that's brilliant, and the fact that you've came over and then again decided to take on the role that you have as well is brilliant. It's an incredible thing to sort of go, yeah, I love it so much, I want to represent it. That's an incredible thing to do.
It's a huge honour, actually. I really, I started out as a councillor. I actually started out working as a parliamentary assistant to an MSP in the Scottish Parliament, and then was persuaded to stand for council because, it was that typical, maybe quite typical of a woman thinking I could never do anything like that. And then was persuaded to stand, and then immediately was given the position of convener of culture and leisure, which, as you'll know, Edinburgh is an incredibly vibrant city in the cultural area. So that was, a big leap up, and a huge responsibility as well, because there are so many jobs and livelihoods dependent on the cultural industries in Edinburgh that you want to make sure you get it right. So, and then, we had the independence referendum in 2014, of course, and we had a Westminster election fairly soon after that. And I just thought, I want to go down and represent some of the people that I've met in the independence referendum and as a councillor, down in Westminster, because it always felt very remote. And, you know, a lot of the time I don't think people really had any real awareness of what was happening down there. And then that huge burst of energy and attention that happened in that 2015 election, when 56 of us got elected, 56 from the SNP got elected to go down there, out of 59 total representative MP positions in the Westminster Parliament, that, you know, I think that's really changed people's outlook on Westminster and, you know, the place that it has, the very significant place it still has in the governance of Scotland. So it's been an incredible time, incredible period to be involved in politics. And, you know, I've got a wonderful team in my office. We help a number, you know, constituents get in touch all the time, particularly over the last few months, of course, because of all the issues that have arisen because of COVID. And we, yeah, it's a real honour to be able to help people, to feel as if I'm representing their views down there, to hold that government to account, you know, the UK government to account, and issues that affect Scotland. Yeah, it's been some time.
Brilliant. It's incredible. And you kind of touched on a true part of Edinburgh there with the culture side of it. And it is something that over the course of the last 10 months has been devastated, completely devastated. I mean, I'm part of that world as well myself. And I know I was talking to, a few months ago, I was talking to the Lord Provost. He was kind enough to come on and do an interview as well, and he was telling me that obviously you were all in the works of doing a big celebration for 100 years of Leith and everything joining in with Edinburgh, which would have been an incredible celebration. And I know there was activities planned for everywhere. For that not to have happened, it's devastating. It's a real shame.
Yeah, I might take a little issue with your word celebration there, because of course,
I know.
There were many people in Leith that were not happy about Leith being incorporated into Edinburgh at all.
When I saw the results for the vote for that, I was like, oh, okay, but they did it anyway.
Yep, they did. And actually, you know, the library and Thomas Morton Hall that's there on the corner of Ferry Road and Junction Street there, that was kind of given as a, if I could term it this way, a sort of consolation prize to the people of Leith.
All right,
because,
okay.
So I know that because a friend did some research around it, because there was talk of selling off that, you know, those units some years ago. But it was discovered it was actually given to the people of Leith on the back of that decision. And so the decision to sell it was shelved as a result, thankfully. Really important part. And now Leith Theatre, of course, is being, you know, rejuvenated, regenerated. You've got some amazing things happening in Leith Theatre. It's an
incredible space. Yeah, it's a brilliant space.
Yeah, and, you know, I've been to a couple of music events, like quite trendy sort of music events, which are slightly trendier than I'm used to. But they were amazing. The sound is fantastic. And there's this slightly grungy feel to the theatre that I really like. It's still got a few bits of peeling paint. I'm hoping they're not going to completely remove. I like that. I just sort of feel, it just feels kind of real, and, you know, and Leithers have really taken it to their heart again. It was always, you know, quite a sore point that it had been out of commission for so long. Yeah. But, you know, just that aside, it's a really good venue, you know, sound-wise, you know, visually, when you're looking at the stage, it's amazing.
I think it's something that was needed as well, because Edinburgh as a whole, as you know, our music venues seem to be disappearing a little bit. So the fact that one's came back and is doing so well and has been embraced is brilliant. It's lovely.
Yeah. No, I think it was really desperately needed in Edinburgh. And I know the city's been aware of that for some time. But, you know, I mean, it's an old it's an old building, and as we
But
know,
that gives it
refurbishing
character.
oh god, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't change it for. I really wouldn't change it for a modern building in that regard. But it does create its own problems. Just heating, the electrics, all of these sorts of things that people have to take on, additional expense. But they've done some pretty successful fundraising so far. There's a lot more to do, but it feels like it's got a real future ahead of it now, which is brilliant.
Yeah, and then you've got the Playhouse at the other end of Leith Walk there, which is it's the largest seated theatre in Europe.
It's massive.
It's
yeah.
like 3,000 seats, which I remember I was chatting to someone else in Edinburgh about that, and they didn't believe me. They were like, it's not 3,000 seats. I'm like, it's 3,047 seats, which when you look at it from the outside, you're not there. And then when you're in the inside,
idea. I know.
When you're inside and you look at it, you're like, when I first moved out to London, I remember, because obviously I was very lucky as a child. My parents took me to a lot of gigs there. John Denver, Everly Brothers, Chuck Berry, some incredible names when I was a kid, as well as great shows as well. And then going down to London and going to some of these other beautiful theatres, Drury Lane and things like that, and going, this seems small. Because I was so used to the Playhouse, which is ridiculous.
Yeah. I know. No, we're really lucky. We do have some wonderful venues in Edinburgh. And of course, at festival time, the back shed, the shed in someone's back garden is pressed into use as a performance venue. I mean, the amount of ingenuity that goes on in turning everyday spaces into something that can be used during a festival is pretty extraordinary.
Yeah.
And you want to see that continue. I mean, obviously we've had to, because of the pandemic, things were scaled back enormously this year. Let's hope that with the news around the vaccine that we'll see a big change there, because you'd had, there's your dogs.
That's my dogs now. Yeah.
So I mean, hopefully we'll be in a position to see some, most of that coming back next year. I expect, things are going to be still affected by it, but and to be fair, I mean, a lot of the festivals put on virtual events and did their best to keep things going, which was great. But I mean, the financial hit would have been considerable, despite the support that both Scottish and UK governments are putting into businesses that have been affected. But it's going to take us a while to recover, but we're a hardy bunch. We'll get there. Oh yeah. Well, like I say, it's certainly persevere in Leith, and there's an awareness of how important the cultural activity is to the city. That every year the Edinburgh Council does a survey of households in Edinburgh, and despite the fact that obviously there are people who feel that it's become, in some respects, over commercialized and it's too busy, because we get hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people coming into the city in a very short period of time. Despite that, there is still a high level of support amongst residents of Edinburgh for the festivals. They do recognise the many benefits that they do bring to the city, not least of which is just having great visitors from all over the world come and enjoy what is, I think, one of the most beautiful cities in the world.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I am a resident that loves it, but then that's part and parcel, I suppose, of my background and everything as well. I embrace it because you don't get what comes to us. What comes to us from all four corners of the world comes to us, happens in no other city around the world, where the whole world comes and wants to entertain here. And it's an incredible opportunity, and for people from all over the world to come and visit it as well, to come and see what's going on, is incredible. And Leith itself, going down to sort of your neck of the woods, so to speak, because I'm going to admit that a lot of my videos that I do promoting Edinburgh and Edinburgh history and things, I do tend to stay more central, because there's a lot of history there.
Oh yeah.
And I'm guilty of not exploring Leith and the other parts of Edinburgh as much as I could, but I've probably done Leith a little bit more than other parts of Edinburgh, but to nowhere near the extent. But it is an incredible part of the city, and what you were saying with it initially being, the port to the world of Scotland, to build onto where it is. It's a beautiful place, and definitely worth people coming down to visit when they come to see.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, if you go along the shore, I mean, you can go to the King's Walk, which is a pub that was established, I think, in the time of James VI or James I. When he took on the crown of England as well. So, I mean, that in itself is extraordinary. Just the. You can go along to Customs House. They're trying to refurbish that and get it off the ground as well. There are, what else is it? I mean, you can walk along to Newhaven Harbour as well, because I shouldn't forget the other parts of my constituency as well. No. Newhaven Harbour is a brilliant place to visit. Go down there.
It's beautiful. You get some such stunning sunsets there sometimes. It's just breathtaking.
In summer, you get this sort of shimmer off the water, and you get the sun going down against that little lighthouse at the end of the pier there. Beautiful. And then further along from that, Granton Harbour and everything that's happening around that now. There's the council's taken over a lot of land there, and I think there's going to be some really exciting developments down there. And then, not my constituency, but further along to Cramond, I mean, just the sheer amount of history. Throw a stone and you'll hit a spot in Edinburgh where something of note has happened. And, we always... we talk about the big ones like the castle at the top of the mile, and then Holyrood Palace down the foot. But people need to look at other things such as the 12 museums and galleries, I think it's 12, that Edinburgh Council runs. So the Museum of Edinburgh is on the mile. Fantastic place to visit and get a sense of Edinburgh. I mean, everyone goes to the National Museum, but the Museum of Edinburgh is fantastic. And then there's all the closes off the mile as well, which if you poke your head into, you just get they're so evocative of what's happened there in the past.
Touching on two things there that you said. A little while ago, I did a series for the channel where I went down every single close.
Really?
Took me 5 or 6 videos, and I just went. We started at the top, and we did 3 or 4 closes of video, and it doesn't matter where it went. We just walked it and had a look what was there, and it was so much fun. I wish I could do it again without knowing, without having been down there. It was so much fun. And the Museum of Edinburgh is a hidden gem, even though it's right there on the Royal Mile. Because you look at it from the outside, you don't realise how big it is.
Oh yeah. I know it is a bit of a TARDIS, isn't it?
Yeah, it really. I see a nice geek reference there. I love it. But it's a beautiful, and I mean, you can see Greyfriar Bobby's collar in there.
I know, and a picture of Greyfriars Bobby and his collar. I mean, I know, and also the original plans of the new town. Which when I was convener for culture, I walked in there and they were giving me a tour, the museum staff and the curator and so on. And I said, so what's this? And they went, that's the original plans of the new town by James Craig, I think it was. And I was like, what? Just here on the wall in the corridor? Really? It's like, unbelievable.
You've got to love that. We've got so much history that we have to put it in the corridors.
I know. In Australia, it would be like in a massive glass case and, probably with armed guards. But, really incredible piece of history. And that is such a quirky museum. I love it. And it's also, of course, the buildings are from the 17th to 18th century. Some of the oldest collection of buildings of that period in Scotland, some of the few that are sort of the most... still in original condition. And Outlander shot there, actually. One of the episodes of Outlander shot there. So some folk who watch that would certainly recognise the back view of it anyway. But I mean, Edinburgh's full of places like that. It's great place to visit, and I would certainly encourage I mean, I can talk about Edinburgh till the cows come home. There's so many other places in Scotland as well. The Highlands, where my parents-in-law live, up in Sutherland. Folk rarely get beyond Inverness, which is a fabulous city. But Sutherland's sort of way up and about an hour past, my parents-in-law are about an hour past Inverness, and it's just beautiful up there. It's so very untouristy as well. If you want to get off the beaten track a little bit and get a feel for what Scotland's all about, that's a great place to go to.
There's a quote that I've said it in a few interviews, and it's not mine. It was one of my subscribers who just left a comment on a video one day saying, "You could probably see Scotland in 2 weeks, but it would take a lifetime to discover it."
Oh, that's nice.
Which is you could go round and you could see. Oh yeah, there's the Highlands, there's the Kelpies, there's Glasgow, there's it. All right, I've seen it. But if you're brave enough to just say, right, let's dive in, let's get off the beaten track, let's explore, you find some proper hidden gems. You really do.
Oh yeah, I mean, we're a bit guilty of that because we tend to sort of do Edinburgh and then we're up the A9 to my parents-in-law. It's about a 5-hour trip. And not so long ago, I decided to go visit the northeast, and so we went around Angus and Aberdeenshire, and there are some amazing places there. Absolutely beautiful villages and towns, castles. Going to places like Arbroath and trying this famous smokies. It hadn't. I don't know, you just sort of like, we're on our way here and we're just going to get there and, we're not going to do any detours or anything. But you just realise what an amazing country this is. There is so much to visit. Particularly if you're interested in history, there's all sorts of things to do, of course, for, younger folk and mountain biking, Monroe climbing, all of these sorts of things, outdoor activities that people can get into as well. If you're interested in history, Scotland is one fabulous place to visit.
I could genuinely talk to you all day because I'm sure we'd have a proper banter about it all, but I know you're on quite a tight schedule. So I'll finish off with just another couple of questions. Although you kind of started to touch on it, top tips for anyone wanting to come over to Scotland?
Okay, well, bring a waterproof. Do be prepared.
That gets said a lot.
Yeah, I know. Don't bother with umbrellas because, frankly, the wind will just turn them inside out very quickly. So, a good waterproof is a good friend. It's really about. Midgie repellent. Smidge is good. Yeah. I have tried that up in the Highlands myself just recently and was quite impressed.
This is coming from a lady where a lot of the animals in your home country try to kill you.
They do. Although I tell you what, to all Australians watching this, you'll understand they don't have cockroaches here. So for someone like myself who cannot stand cockroaches, the fact you can open a cupboard and not see something scuttling away out of the corner of your eye is really good. Spiders, nothing to write home about. Really quite.
Yeah,
quite
ours are just ours are very unscary. Whereas there was a news article on TV just 10 minutes ago. There was a news article where a family in Australia had came down to see their Christmas tree, and there was a koala in the Christmas tree in their front room, and I thought that was just brilliant.
That's adorable. Actually, it's funny because everyone thinks in Australia we just have kangaroos hopping down your main street and things like that. It's like, no, not really. In fact, I never saw, the only snake I ever saw in the whole 34 years in Australia was dead, and I think it had been run over. So, people shouldn't be too worried about it. Most of the time, if you live in an urban area, you're pretty okay. But spiders, yes. When I used to, this is getting off topic, really. It's talking about life in Australia.
That's fine.
When I used to come home after I'd been out and, coming home at 2 or 3 in the morning, I used to have to crouch down with a stick waving over my head to get to the back door so that all the spider webs that were across were out of my way as I went through. It seems ridiculous when I look back on it now, but I didn't really want spider webs and spiders in my hair, so I figured that was Yeah, not easy when you've been out with your mates and.
No, that's absolutely fair enough. That's absolutely fair enough. I like to finish off with what I like to call difficult questions for Scots.
Oh, okay.
So, shortbread or tablet?
Shortbread.
Oh, that was quick.
I make shortbread. No, I make shortbread. I'm afraid. I'm afraid I don't get tablet. I just don't get it. It's like wet sugar.
It's funny since I've started asking these questions to people, and the difficult questions people really seem to enjoy, because I think you get to know someone with these sort of questions a little bit. But everyone outside of Scotland has heard of shortbread, but they haven't really heard of tablet. So the amount of comments I've got is, "What is tablet?" Is really? Like unbelievable. I'm like, well, come over and try it.
So it's like Moses kind of thing. I don't know.
Everyone just thinks everyone's wandering about with an iPad and going, yeah.
No, shortbread with rice flour as well. I'm quite a purist.
But you must, if you're making your own shortbread now, I'm impressed, because, it's not that easy to make. It's not that easy to make.
Well, it's not, and it's temperamental sometimes. You can think you've done everything exactly the same, and all of a sudden it will just be kind of burnt on one side or whatever. But when you get it right, delicious. Absolutely delicious.
Absolutely. Iron brew or whiskey?
Whiskey.
Nice.
Again,
don't quite get the iron brew taste.
Too sweet. And I actually, when I first came here, I worked for a while for a wine distribution company, and South African wines actually, and they sort of dabbled in whiskey tasting. So I got a bit of an appreciation for it, and obviously, being in tow with a half Highlander, the occasional whiskey is very nice.
And obviously, being married to a half Highlander, and obviously having your in-laws up there as well. This, I'm sure you'll get this one as well. Haggis, neeps and tatties, or mince and tatties? Haggis.
I love haggis.
That's good to hear. That's nice to hear.
I love it. My nephew came to visit recently, and he was on his first. He discovered haggis, and someone said, "This is the third plate he's had." We were eating out in cafes and restaurants and things, and it was the third time he'd ordered it. And I went, "Right, has anyone told him what's in it?" No. We'll just leave it.
I've said this in a few shows, a few interviews. But I used to host the Scottish show at the Jam House about 6 years ago. Spirit of Scotland show.
Brilliant.
It's a beautiful venue. Again, another beautiful place to go visit. But obviously, it was a lot of American, Australians, Canadians, Chinese tourists coming, and they'd get a meal before the show. But we'd give them haggis as the starter instead of the main course. And the amount of times people would ask me what was in it, and I'd just say, it's just like spicy mince. Don't worry about it. Taste it. You'll enjoy it. Just don't think about it that much. It's fine.
Yeah.
But then truthfully, you could say that about any meat, really.
Yeah, of course you could. But listen, I think haggis is delicious, and there's nothing like it. It's completely, it's different to anything else I've tried. I'm not so much of a purist there. I am quite happy to have it with a whiskey cream sauce as well. Nice.
I've said this to a few people. Have you tried the haggis box in Edinburgh yet?
Oh, no, I haven't.
They're beautiful. They're usually a little green sort of thing. They've moved about. They were in the Grass Market for a while. And now they're in John Knox House. They've taken over the cafe in John Knox House.
Have they? Oh,
their whiskey sauce.
Making a note of that and thinking must go.
Yeah, I should say they're not a sponsor. They're not anything. They've been on the channel because I did a video about haggis, but they're not a sponsor or anything. It's just their whiskey sauce. Oh my goodness, it is
really
amazing. It is lovely,
great.
Really lovely. And they do a lovely veggie haggis as well. I don't know.
Well, see, I'm quite fond of veggie haggis. I really am. McSween's veggie haggis, I'm very fond of.
They do go to the Leith Market on a Saturday, actually. They've got a portable thing, so they go there on a Saturday sometimes.
Well, Crops in Pots has a Sunday market now as well. So I think they've got a little, I think they've got a little stand down there too.
You should try it. It's lovely.
Great, good recommendation.
Other haggises and whiskey sauces are available, but you should try it. They are lovely. I've lost track. I've lost track
Questions.
where I was. Questions. That's where I was. Last but by no means least. Oh no, I can ask you this one because you're in Edinburgh. Chippy sauce, yes or no?
Yes. I wonder how many of you people tuning in will know what we're talking about.
But that's the thing, they'll come over and they'll get to embrace it. But it's one of these things, it's a very East Coast central thing. Like the West Coast, Highlands, they're like, no, what? No, I don't get it. But yes, it's beautiful.
My Ouija colleagues are very scathing about chippy sauce, but I think, but I'm prepared to defend quite doubtily chippy sauce because it's delicious. I love it. I once saw a great, Greg Proops, the comedian, he came here. Yeah. He does a great skit about how this woman sauces, she goes, salt and sauce or whatever it is, and salt and sauce. And he can't understand her, because her accent's quite strong. And then she just sticks what he describes as sump oil onto his lovely chips. And he's like, ah! But it's not. It tastes fabulous. Yeah, and vinegar, it's never the same.
No. I'd interviewed, I'd gone with Greg Proops a couple of months ago. I had Colin Mockery, who obviously he was born in Scotland and everything like that. And I was like, I better not ask him about the chippy sauce because he was in Edinburgh born. And two, I'm like, I didn't think I knew he wasn't from Edinburgh. I'm like, he's going to say no. I'm not going to ask him. Last but by no means least, Tunnock's tea cakes or caramel wafers?
Ooh. Look, tea cakes edge it, I think. There's something about that mallow inside that I just love. But the wafers, you have them, and then you suddenly think, gosh, these are really good.
I know. It's funny, the tea cakes and the wafers, it's a proper 50-50 split. It's a proper 50-50 split whenever I've asked anyone.
Is that right? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, it's kind of a 50-50 split for me as well, I must say.
Tunnock's tea cakes had it for a while, but wafers have properly caught up, and I'm like, that's about even, but it's the toughest one.
That slightly chewy quality to the Tunnock's wafers, just very good. Now I'm feeling hungry.
I know. I have that effect on people. This has been absolutely brilliant. Thank you for sharing your time and coming on and chatting and doing the job that you do. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, thanks, Tony. And hi to everyone all over the place, everyone who loves Scotland. And if you haven't been before, and once we get through this pandemic, I do hope you come and visit us all. It's a wonderful place.
That was brilliant. That was really cool. It's not often that you get to interview a genuine member of Parliament, and that was a lot of fun. It was actually really interesting, I found, to have someone's perspective who, is someone who's emigrated over here and taken the place into their heart like that, to the point where they've went, I love this place, I want to represent it. It's exciting. It's nice to know that it can have that effect on someone to come and embrace their home like that. And you can tell from the conversation she's probably got a passion about the place, which I do as well. So it was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Once again, guys, if you haven't already, please remember, hit that subscribe button, give us a like, leave a comment, but wherever you are, keep yourself safe out there. Till next time, bye humans.